microphones when you're not speaking. I think put your camera on, please. It's usually a good sign. I can see all of you. It's very polite to do that. And if you'd like to raise your hand function, if you've got to come in for a question, that's great. If you can't raise your hand or functionality doesn't work, then wave at me frantically. And if that doesn't work, then please feel free to interject in that order, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, moving on then, I'd like to say this is just to outline what the committee is. The Royal Joint Committee is made up of 5 West Yorkshire CCGs with North Yorkshire CCG as an associate member. It has delegated powers from West Yorkshire CCGs to make decisions on specific work programmes. Although the committee supports a health and care partnership, it does not represent all partners. It is not the business of the committee to deal with issues in individual places. And I think it's basically just to outline exactly what the committee is. We've been in situ now for a number of years. I think most member colleagues are completely aware of what we're here to do. So thank you very much indeed. Just to align to people as well, I think this is the last but one meeting of the joint CCG, the last one being in June 2022, which is next month. And just to make sure people are aware, we do intend to complete harmonisation of all commissioning policies as we move forward, and we confirm the arrangement for the transition of the Joint Committee responsibilities to the new ICB, which will be established on the 1st of July 2022, now that the Act has been received by Royal Assent. So we'll agree a close down and down summary report. And I think that's more or less a transition of where we are to the ICB board. And I think that's really important that we close everything down. And just remember exactly what we have done as a committee of CCGs over the last 3 to 4 years, which has been phenomenal. So on behalf of myself, thank you for that. Moving, if I may then, to declarations of interest. Is there anything any members would wish to declare that's on the agenda today that's over and above what the declarations they've already done, please? Anybody like to declare anything? No? Okay, thank you very much then. If I may move on then to questions and deputisation. Stephen, I don't think we've had any questions, have we, from the members of the public today?
No, we haven't. Sorry, could I just go back to declarations? I think you were just going to declare your interest in relation to South West Yorkshire, just so we've got that on the record.
Yeah, my apologies. I should say I'd completely forgot because I've been talking to my lay colleagues before we all joined. Yes, I've been appointed as the chair of South West Yorkshire Partnership Foundation Trust. Came into effect on the 1st of December for a 10-year, 3 years. So that's my interest. I think having looked at it, we felt at this stage in the committee's position, it wasn't a conflict of interest. But if there is anything, any agenda items, obviously, I would be declaring that. So yes, thank you, Stephen. I should have honestly declared that. I suppose it's because I'm so enjoying myself that I forget these things sometimes. So thank you for that reminding me. Okay, so moving on, if I may, then to questions and anything else. Members of the public, are there any questions from members of the public, Stephen, we've received?
No, Chair, we haven't received any public questions for today's meeting.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Okay, if I can then move on to minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of October. It seems like a long time ago, which it was. But again, those meetings are there. Is there anything there you'd like for accuracy first, please? And then anything you'd like to be picked up? So accuracy first, please. Anybody would like to pick any accuracies up? No? Are we happy, therefore, to approve them? Yeah. Thank you, Stephen, for doing those. Moving on to actions of matters arising of the 10th of October again. Stephen, please, on the action log.
Yeah, I think all of the actions set out on the action log have been completed, so nothing else to report on that unless anyone's got any matters arising they want to pick up.
Anybody would like to pick anything up with Stephen at this stage? No. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to move on then, if I may, to harmonisation commissioning policies, and I'm going to ask Catherine Thompson to introduce the item. Catherine, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, so in preparation for the new ICB on the 1st of July, after it gained royal assent last week, we need to harmonise our commissioning thresholds for clinical policies across West Yorkshire. there is no duplication and overlap of policies. So that is why some of them may look different from what you might have recognised from your own place. And we've also taken into consideration the third wave of the national in terms of clinical engagement. That's been done at place in both primary and secondary care, and also with other programmes or functions where there's 12 months. So the Joint Committee is asked to approve this recommendation to adopt these policies commencing on the 1st of July.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. I think there's 19, isn't there, Catherine?
There is, yes.
Yeah, okay. So obviously there's been a lot of work done. There's been a lot of clinical involvement. I think we get to seek reassurance from that, Catherine, which I think is obvious. Is there anything colleagues would like to pick up with Catherine? I know it's a bit systematic, this, but I think there are a few issues. Carol, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Catherine. Just a couple of points from me, really. I suppose the paragraph in this that sort of jumps out is the one that contains the risk about in paragraph 14, which is there's potentially a risk both in terms of finance to the ICB, but also increased numbers going onto the waiting list, either as a result of making change to the policy or potentially, I guess, people who may not have met previous policies in place but may now subsequently do as a result of a change. So it's helpful that it's written there. It's just feels slightly uneasy that we can't quantify either of those things at the moment. So it is really important, I think, we keep that under review. And then it's not necessarily for this decision, because obviously this is about the policies, but these are always the sort of thing that tend to feature in our exceptional cases arrangements locally, don't they, where people come through. I presume that piece of work is happening somewhere else. I just feel slightly out of the loop in terms of what the arrangements are going to be on that from the 1st of April. But is that, from the 1st of July, is that something that's being managed through the Planned Care Alliance as well in support of this work?
Yes, it is. So the place leads who are overall responsible for the IFR process in each of the places. So I think really that means 3. There's the Leeds, the Bradford place, and then the rest of South West Yorkshire together. They have been meeting regularly since the end of last year, autumn time, to review the processes that happen in each place and make sure that the same process happens in each place and that we are agreed on the steps and the nature of the process. I think that bit is more or less agreed amongst them, and then it's about the mechanics, the front end of how it works for the referrer, because they are currently different in the places, and gosh, this is where I'm dreadful at names. Vicky, Carol, in your team.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that. I think what I'm just getting slightly nervous about is when will we see sight of those arrangements so that we don't have a gap between our panels making decisions against these policies in place when the new ICB takes effect. So can we be assured that that will be in place in time?
I think we can be assured about the process, yes, in terms of the steps. In terms of the mechanics of it, whether we all have the same software program in place in all places for the 1st of July, I am doubtful, because we've only just gone out for quotes on how much it's likely to cost to put the same IT system in across all places, and last I heard that wasn't back yet. So the process, the criteria will be the same.
Okay. Yeah, that's the main reason I was asking it, that potentially there's another risk there, isn't there, that's not set out, which is we might have the policies agreed, but we might not have the mechanism in place to enable us to make decisions against them by the 1st of July. And that was just what I was trying to draw out. But OK, thank you.
Yeah, I think they're in agreement with that, Carol. I think you're right. It's a point well made. I think probably, Catherine, we need to bear that in mind on our risk moving forward on those. Then I think it's a good point that. Jonathan Webb, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Catherine. I suppose it's following on, I think, from the point that Carol's making around this sort of the unquantified activity impact and the unquantified financial impact as well. And I recognise, Catherine, some of this stuff's not easy to get a very precise sort of scientific estimate around it. I was sort of assured to an extent about what you said, Catherine, around it'll be reviewed at 6 and 12 months. From both an activity and a financial impact. Having said that, when I've gone back to look at the recommendation says about approving the policies. There's not a subject to, with a caveat of that we might review it in 6 or 12 months time and do something different. So that feels like in some ways quite a passive review to say these are the policies. We will review it and understand it, but we won't necessarily go back and revise and potentially take another view. So I just wonder what the intention was really, Catherine.
The intention is absolutely to go back and take another view after the 1st of July. The reason we haven't done it now is that it would require an engagement period with the public, and there wouldn't be July, which is why we went to the least stringent, because that doesn't require the public engagement and it reduces our risk of not being aligned. Next lot are through, which should be the last lot. We will commence the work. We have already identified, I think, the majority of the policies, and including in the future tranche to come, where we anticipate the risk of the increased activity to be the greatest. And we're aiming, our ambition is to be ready to do this quite early into the new system of operation, so hopefully in July.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. So, Chair, I just wonder, because that feels slightly. I understand exactly what you said, Catherine. That feels a slight subtle difference between the recommendation as written, which is, I think, a bit more of a categoric. These policies will be approved. I think what you're describing is more of a holding position. And further work will be done once the ICB is sort of set up, established, and the impact is reviewed and understood. So it might be worthwhile. Let's see what other comments, Chair. But I'd be more comfortable with that slightly nuanced recommendation as opposed to the blanket one that's been put forward in the paper.
OK, thank you, Jonathan. So on that basis, then, are we all happy to agree that the 19th so far, and there's more to come, Catherine, in June's meeting, isn't there? That caveat is as described as Jonathan's put it, and indeed Carol, to be fair, because there are risks about the harmonisation of policies on that basis, and also the fact, Catherine, it would be the intention of the ICB to review them every 6 and 12 months basically post management of them, if you like. Would that be okay with everybody? Are you happy with that, Jonathan? Then on that basis, Carol, look at you two in particular, because I think the point's very well made. Okay, right. Thank you. On that basis, then we'll approve them, Catherine. Thank you. Because I think policies and procedures are always one of those things that are really, you know, important to get right, and yet actually it's a little, you know, I's and T's, isn't it? So thank you, Catherine, for doing all of that, and we'll look forward to the final tranche in June for that transition into the ICB. So thank you, Catherine, on that.
Thank you.
Okay, on that basis, then I'm going to move on to the final item, which is risk management. Stephen Gregg, please, to present the paper. Thank you, Stephen.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yeah, this is the usual risk report to the Joint Committee. Sets out the significant risk to delivery of the Joint Committee work plan, Appendix 1, and sets out the controls, assurances and mitigating actions for each risk. There are currently 8 risks scored at 12 or above after mitigation, and those relate to the cancer programme, mental health, learning disability and autism, and planned care, and these are again highlighted in the covering report. 2 risks have been reduced to below 12 since the last meeting, and they'll now be removed from the register, and those relate to maternity services and planned care. And as Marie said out at the start of the meeting, a final risk update to the Joint Committee in June will set out the arrangements for the transition of outstanding risks to the new ICB arrangements. So the committee is asked to review the risks as they stand at the moment, controls in place, and any additional actions that might need to be taken.
Thank you, Stephen. Are colleagues happy with that? I think the most important thing, Stephen, is that transition between now and moving forward in the ICB, because these risks don't go away. And indeed, they may, you know, they may increase or they may get less, but they need to be in that transition plan as we move forward at the end of June. Are we all happy on that basis then to look at the work plan, look at the risks as described by Stephen, and support those suggestions on the reduction in 2 in particular? Are we happy with that? Yeah. Okay, on that basis, Stephen, thank you very much indeed. Happy to support the recommendations of the work plan and the actions being taken to mitigate the identified risks. Thank you. Okay, moving on from colleagues. Is there any other business? Well, I've only, yep. Okay, Carol, please. Carol McKenna.
Sorry, just a really procedural thing. I don't have a meeting in my diary for June. I don't know if it's just me, but you've referred to it a couple of times, Maria. Are we meeting in the usual schedule, or is it one that's been specially arranged towards the end of the
it is actually the usual schedule, Carol. I think we've all kept them in our diary, and I've assumed, and I've only had phone calls when we haven't. I'm assuming that's correct, Stephen.
We will, yeah, we'll double check that, Carol. Yeah, it's with the usual schedule, but we'll obviously, if you've not got it in your calendar for whatever reason, we'll double check that and make sure that it is in everyone's calendar.
Yeah, and it's, I know it's a bit, you think, oh my goodness, we're moving into the new system. It's really important we get it right this transition period, because there's so many things we need to sign off and then transfer across formally. So, Kelly Naheem, please.
Hi, I've got West Yorkshire and Harrogate Partnership Board meeting. It still says, to be confirmed on the 7th.
Yep.
June the 7th.
Yeah, our next meeting actually is Tuesday, the 7th of June, 11 AM to 1 PM. So if you can keep that, that would be really helpful, because that is the next meeting date for everybody. If we're all happy with that. But Stephen will write out anyway from today, won't you, Stephen, and make sure those diary invites are set out properly through his team. Is that okay with you, Stephen?
We'll do that. We'll confirm all the invitations.
And it is important we do, it might be a bit dry, but it's really important we do that transition properly. As I say, it's been a very important board, this, for everybody. Okay, any other business from colleagues? No? I just want to say thank you very much for attending today. It's lovely to see you all. And it seems like a long, long time ago. And I really appreciate your attendance today. And at our final meeting in June, will be lovely to make sure it's signed off properly, which has been a very successful committee. So I'll see you in June on behalf of myself today and the team in Wakefield. Thank you very much indeed. And we'll see you all very soon, unless there's anything else. Okay, thank you very much.
Bye, Marie.
Thanks, everybody.